friends. I am Sarah Ruth from Kindle Togetherness, and today I am here to talk to you all about starting your own co-op. And I'm going to particularly talk specifically about nature co-ops and co-ops that do like adventuring and outdoor things. And there's so many ways to have a homeschool co-op. You can do it in your home. You can work with a local church or another facility and use their facilities to have more of a classroom setting. For me, my journey to having co-ops has been almost as long as I've had children. In early motherhood, we all want community, and I live in a really rural area. There are not many homeschool families. Furthermore, most women go back to work when their children are about 3 to 6 months old, if not sooner, sadly. And so in my life, it's been seasons. Initially, I had an in-home group that met. The mothers had small children, like the oldest kid in the group was usually 3 or 4 years old. Most of us had nurslings. And we came to my home and we prayed together. We went through a book or just hung out and enjoyed some appetizers and just had fellowship. And that worked for a season. It was mixed. It was not faith-based. Everybody knew I was a believer, but not everybody that came had similar worldview or religion to myself. And I was fine with that. I personally enjoy relationship with people who don't all agree with me on every topic. While I do understand there is value in gathering together with people who have similar worldview, I kind of see like church as that place, and then I really value getting to know people and learning from people who maybe aren't the same as me. So anyway, I'm going to adjust my camera because I don't like the angle of this. I'm going to pull you down just a little bit. Hi. So anyway, that said, that segued as my children, as I started having more kids. I think, let's see, Brave and Blaze are my oldest two kids. And when I was pregnant with Benaiah, my third son, my older two were 3 years old and 1. And I started a free forest school chapter. Now, this is a secular organization that is passionate about getting children into the woods for free play, and the parents learn how to be like a protective barrier around the outside of the children, and so the children can just play for a couple hours. And this worked really well for us for about 2.5 years, and we actually covered like a tri-state area because I'm in this little weird triangular corner of my state that borders South Carolina and North Carolina. So we had people meeting in Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, and it worked really well for quite a while. COVID hit, that organization kind of imploded. I don't even know what they're doing these days. They might still be thriving. We had a great experience overall. So if you're looking for like a non-homeschool oriented, let's get our kids outside kind of thing, you could totally check out Free Forest School. So yeah, their vision is just getting all children outside, kind of removing barriers and making sure that all children have access to free play outdoors. So when COVID hit, we took a break from social activities, but in my heart, I knew I really wanted to develop a homeschool co-op. We have a few locally, like Classical Conversations, and another group that recently started at the same time my co-op started that is like classroom oriented. And those are really valuable experiences. Some families do amazing with Classical Conversations. Some families really like the classroom aspect and having some dance class or a science extension, things like that. For our family, I am very comfortable doing the classroom side of our schooling in our home. And what I look for in community is relationship for my children. I want them to get something from it that I cannot offer them in my house every day. And we value nature and time together outside, and we are in such a magnificent area to do that. So I really wanted to, use the time wisely and get us outdoors for a whole day. When my kids were little, we were outdoors for like 8 hours a day, 3 or 4 days a week, and it was wonderful. It's not as easy to do anymore. So anyway, after looking at what was available in my community, I felt like there wasn't what we were looking for. And so I was like, okay, here's my chance. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. How do you start a co-op locally? I'm going to specifically speak from my own experience because that's all I can speak from. So starting a nature-inspired co-op, a lot of people look at me and say, okay, you're a Charlotte Mason mom, so obviously you started a Charlotte Mason co-op. You're wrong. I did not. I personally feel like Charlotte Mason, the philosophy, is kind of like an extension of us as a family, and it permeates every part of our lives. Um, you know, it's gospel based. It is, it just is in each part of our lives, and I don't feel the need to force a co-op to all have that similar value system. Maybe if I was in a more urban area and there were more families enjoying this way of educating and living, maybe I would consider it. However, I have found that having people in my life who maybe don't um, know about the Charlotte Mason philosophy or aren't using it doesn't hurt me. This is a once a week event that I do. And I'm, like I said, I'm in a rural area. So how, when you're, wanting to develop something, how does it start? For me, it started in prayer, just asking the Lord to help me, guide me. Then because of the COVID restrictions that were going on and just some of the concerns we had personally, my husband specifically, we stayed small in the beginning. So I reached out and identified some people that I had interacted with at Free Forest School that I knew had similar aged children. And I said, hey, we're going to have a small gathering weekly. I know you homeschool. Are you interested in hanging out with us and doing some stuff? And I would just advise you, like, hold everything very loosely because things are going to change. The group is going to morph. And you have to be willing, like if you're a super rigid type A person, maybe a nature co-op isn't for you. Maybe you want to do a classroom style, because I feel like the types of families that really enjoy getting their kids out on a hike and being in nature for 4 hours, you know, one, a lot of them tend to want to get involved, which is wonderful, and help lead, which I think is important. And then also, everybody has their own ideas about how things should go and what should happen. People have different age children, so you really have to hold things loosely and be willing to work with everybody. That said, you can't please everybody, and if you're a people pleaser like me, you have to learn to handle your own emotions. And these are people you want to build friendships with. These are people you want to have in your children's lives. So you really have to be considerate of other people's feelings, and I'm not always great at that. I try really hard though. So expect the unexpected, expect people to have problems, but practically speaking, pick a day of the week. We found that morning was a good time to start. So our co-op starts at 9:30 in the morning. We all agreed on Thursdays, and our co-op actually rotates locations. So we don't stay at the same place. We try to be within like 30 to 45 minutes of all participating families. Most of the time that is amenable. But like I said, we are in a really rural area, so some of us are almost an hour away from one another, like our homes are, which is an interesting dynamic when you're choosing locations. If you are in a rural area, you probably have more places to explore, so it's not as difficult to find kind of a middle ground, and that's what we work on for the most part. So invite your friends. One thing that I suggest is commitment, asking directly for commitment. So a homeschool co-op, if you're not doing like an activities co-op where it's just like once a month, like going on a field trip, when it's like you want a core group of people that are going to meet week after week, it's really important that the people involved are committed. So we very specifically state like, hey, we are looking for people who can pretty much come every week. We understand you'll go on vacation. We understand about sickness. But we want families that are dedicated to this and value this and see it as a part of their homeschool journey. And so we've asked everybody to commit to a weekly program. So anyway, once you have chosen your time and day of the week, then you need to consider Well, one thing to consider is like a sickness policy. You can go online and research like daycare sickness policies or the school sickness policies and just think about what's going to work best for your co-op. For us, we're a little stricter just because COVID's out there and we don't want to like be passing COVID around for the fun of it, or any flu for that matter. So we have a fairly strict, like, if your kids had a fever, if they have a snotty nose and it's not allergies, like, please stay home kind of thing, which I feel like is just courteous because who wants to be sick at all? Um, so a sickness policy is wise, as well as like having like an open house time. And we're learning this in my co-op, but I think twice a year we're going to have an open house. So in August, we're going to have 4 weeks of events that are public to all homeschooling families in our community. And we use Facebook to do that. I have 2 Facebook groups. We have a closed private co-op group where only the committed members of the co-op participate in that group, and nobody else gets added to it until they're a committed member. Our events are private, and only the members of our co-op can view the events and participate in them. We created a second co-op activities group, which is a public group open to, or it's not public, I think it's private, but it is, we have advertised it and it is open to any homeschoolers in our area that can feasibly get to activities. And so what we do is our weekly co-op event is in the private group that we only add committed members to, who will come every week. Then we have the second group, the activities group, and we put a field trip in there once a month and we put a hike in there once a month. And so those 2 activities, we have about 40 people, 40 families in the activities group. They are invited to go to those monthly events, and it also gives them an opportunity to kind of get the vibe of the group, or like families who can't make a weekly commitment can still build homeschool community with homeschoolers in your area. So I do strongly advise considering something like that. Having monthly events that people can jump in on is a great way to like extend, especially if you're rural and you have such a small base anyway. It just invites everybody and it's very inclusive. Okay, so back to the open house concept. So most of the year, the homeschool co-op group is closed. We have our members, there's 9 involved families, and it just stays that way. But we've decided once in the spring and once in the autumn to have 4 events that are actually the co-op weekly events are going to be listed in our activities co-op or activities group, where the larger audience is. And we're going to say, hey, we're having an open house. Anybody interested in knowing more about what we do every week can come to these events. We're going to close our co-op back after these 4 events, and anybody who wants to join us can tell us at the last event. So this is a way to invite new families to participate. It's a way to kind of vet families. Like there may be families that aren't a great fit who say they want to participate, but they're like showing up 30 minutes late, or for whatever reason, like you realize it's not a great fit. Well, that is your opportunity to like figure out who's really going to commit and join and who maybe isn't going to and may just want to do the monthly stuff. So anyway, I think open houses are smart and wise. We are not currently charging for our co-op. It is not a burden to me. We don't require heavy supplies. There are actually parking fees at a lot of the places we go, and I feel like if we charge for the co-op in addition to the parking fees, like it's just not feasible for families, especially with gas prices right now. Oh my gosh. So, sorry, I'm like freezing. I'm in my little sunroom and it's cold out here and I'm not wearing long sleeves. So anyway, that essentially, we don't charge anything, but something to consider, especially when you're doing like outdoor, and if it's weekly and it's not like just an adventure group, I do like having some type of curriculum to launch us each week. So there are a couple options out there. There's probably 100 options. Some of my favorites you could use. The Peaceful Press has nature guides that are designed for like a kinder year. Those would be great themes. I mean, you could totally use them for older children as well. Just like springboard themes, and it has book lists and activities. Another one is Exploring Nature with Children. We used Exploring Nature with Children for almost 5 years. It is weekly themes based on nature. She has like classic art. She has activity suggestions, nature journaling, so you could use that. And then we actually are choosing to use Treehouse Schoolhouse Nature Study. She has a co-op license that you can purchase, and you can just divide that amongst your members. And most curriculums, you would want to talk to the creator if they don't have it listed, like a co-op license listed, because you definitely want to honor copyright. You can't distribute materials or use materials in a classroom setting. Yeah, so without their permission. So anyway, Lindsay, the creator of Treehouse Schoolhouse, has a similar concept to exploring nature with children, a weekly theme, like let's say spring equinox, we just did it, or we're about to do it this week, or snails and worms, or whatever it is. Every week has a theme. Every week has a folk song. Every week has poetry, has an activity, has book suggestions. It's very rich. It has a lot that you can unpack, and we definitely don't use everything in the curriculum every week. So we plan on going back through it again in the future, and you can kind of spiral with it and continue to go over everything. But the way we use her curriculum is all of the families have it. Some of them have printed it, some haven't. But each week I set up the event using the name of the week in the curriculum, and then I provide the links to Lindsay's hand rhyme that she does on YouTube and a link to the folk song, and I give a brief overview like, hey guys, if you have time to practice this at home, please do. This is how we'll run co-op this week. This is the supplies that we need, and I ask parents to bring supplies so that we kind of spread that a little bit. And then when we get to co-op, here is the general idea of our schedule. It is not a like at 9:30 we do this, at 10 it's a flow, it's a rhythm, because that's my natural bend. But essentially at 9:30 we gather around, the kids kind of just hang out and talk and the parents do it. And then around 9:40 or 9:45 we open up. And I have started opening up with Swedish drill, which is very Charlotte Mason. And the kids actually love it. It's like stretches and basic exercises, but it's all about the habit of attention, and it rallies them really well. I don't give it any introduction. I don't say, hey, we're gonna do Swedish drill. I just start calling out the commands, and they love it and they participate, and some of them will lead it sometimes. So we do our Swedish drill for like 5 minutes, and then we open up with our hand rhyme. I'll usually do a quick teaser about the topic, like, hey, does anybody know what we're going to talk about this week? What do you know about it? So I'll kind of engage the kids. We will occasionally sing the folk song, and I'm hoping to bring on a parent to help with that. We have an amazing singer in our group who's a musician, so I've invited her to start leading that. And then we invite the kids to do show and tell. We invite a child to do recitation using the poem in the curriculum so they can come up, just giving the kids opportunities. And then we usually go on either a walk to our sit spots. We do sit spots for the children. We walk for a little bit and then we tell them to disperse and to sit and listen and look. We nature journal what we saw while we were listening and looking. And then we walk some more, and we typically have a plan to meet at like some picnic tables or a pavilion. So that's something we think about when we're planning location. And we'll do a book from the curriculum, like one of the picture book suggestions, as well as an activity. And then one of our members is a great artist, and so she has been doing some watercolor lessons. After our watercolor lessons, we typically let the children go play for about an hour. So the learning time total is probably about an hour, give or take. And so from our introduction around 9:40 until when we finish watercoloring, we're usually done with watercolor around 11ish. And there's walking and hiking involved in that time period. So like it's not all like instruction to the children. And then they get time to play and just hang out with their friends. We invite everybody to bring a picnic lunch. Usually 2 or 3 families sit and eat lunch together. Some leave because they have younger babies who need naps. And next year, we're going to be adding in a class after lunch. So like we're going to try to do lunch from like 12 to 12:40. And then from 12:45 to let's say 1:45, we're going to add in some type of valuable class for families who are interested, maybe a STEAM or STEM class, something science, robotics, or engineering. or maybe Latin or Spanish, something that will be of value to the families participating. So anyway, that is the gist of what our co-op looks like, of how we run it, how we get started. If you have questions, you can put them in the comments and I will try and respond to people. I will make more videos about this as I'm able to and as I see there's a need, but hopefully this was somewhat helpful. All right, happy learning.